Go look at the jug of laundry detergent sitting in your house right now and think about what it really is. You paid good money for it, and most of what is inside that heavy jug is water, plain water, that you carried home from the store and will pour right back down your drain. The rest is a mix of chemicals, some to clean, some just for the color, some just for the smell, things you could not name if you tried, and that jug runs out in a month or two and you go buy another, and another, all year long, year after year. Add it up over your lifetime, and it is not a few dollars, it is thousands, thousands of dollars for jugs of perfumed water. Now picture a family high in the old mountains, cut off from any store, snow on the road half the year, every penny counted twice, and ask yourself, what did they wash their clothes with? They did not have a detergent aisle. They made their own, from a handful of cheap, simple things, and one batch lasted them the better part of a whole year, and it cleaned their work clothes, their bedding, their children's things, every bit as well as anything in a jug. By the end of this video, you will know that exact mountain recipe, step by step, what goes in it and why, how to make it and how to use it, plus all the old tricks for whitening and softening and lifting stains. So you can make one batch and stop buying detergent for good. Stay with me, because the one ingredient that does most of the work, the cheap powder the old folks swore by, is the secret almost nobody knows about anymore, and I will show you exactly how to use it. First, let me tell you why this works, because once you understand it, you will trust it. Getting clothes clean is not complicated, and it never was. Dirt and grease cling to fabric, and to wash them out, you need three things working together. You need something that breaks the surface tension of the water and lets it soak deep into the fibers and lift the grime, which is what soap does. You need something that softens the water and boosts the cleaning, because hard water full of minerals fights against soap and leaves your clothes dull and stiff, and the old folks had powders that handled that. And you need a little scrubbing action and warm water to carry it all away. That is the whole of it. The big companies have wrapped that simple truth in fancy bottles and bright colors and 100 added chemicals and a price to match, but the old mountain folk knew that clean is clean, and they got there with 3 or 4 plain ingredients that cost almost nothing. They did not need a chemist. They needed soap, a couple of cheap mineral powders, and the know how that got passed down through the family. And here is the bonus. Their homemade soap was gentle, no harsh perfumes and dyes sitting against the skin all day, which matters a great deal for anyone with sensitive skin, for a baby, for an old body that has grown tender. If you believe that doing it yourself, the honest old way, beats handing your money to a company for a jug of water, then do me a kindness and subscribe to this channel and help me keep these old mountain recipes alive, because this kind of knowledge gets lost in a single generation if nobody passes it on, and I do not want it gone. So let me give you the recipe, the real mountain recipe, and I will walk you through every part of it. There are just 3 main things in the classic homemade laundry soap, and you can find all 3 cheaply, and a single batch of each goes a very, very long way. The first thing is a bar of plain soap, a hard, simple soap, the kind the old folks made themselves from fat and lye, but which you can buy cheaply as a plain bar. A pure laundry, or Castile, or olive oil soap with no fancy creams in it. This is the part that actually lifts the grease and dirt off the fabric. The second thing is washing soda. And pay attention here, because this is the cheap powder that does most of the work, the secret of the whole recipe. Washing soda is not the same as baking soda. It is stronger, and it is the great water softener and grease cutter, the thing that boosts your soap and pulls the dirt out and keeps the minerals in hard water from dulling your clothes. The old folks leaned on it heavily. The third thing is borax, an old mineral cleaner the mountain families have used for generations, which softens the water further, brightens the wash, helps lift stains, and freshens the smell. That is the whole recipe: soap, washing soda, and borax, three plain things, and from a small amount of each you make enough soap to wash clothes for the better part of a year. Now here is how you make it, step by step, the dry powder version that the old folks favored because it keeps forever on the shelf. First you take your bar of plain soap and you grate it, just like you would grate cheese, into fine little shreds. The finer you grate it, the better it dissolves in the wash, so take your time and grate it small. Some old folks would let those soap shreds dry out for a day or two so they grind up even finer. Then you take your grated soap and you mix it together with the washing soda and the borax. The old rule of thumb is roughly equal parts of the two powders to about 1 part of the grated soap, say 2 cups of washing soda and 2 cups of borax to 1 grated bar of soap, give or take. And you can adjust it as you learn what your water and your clothes need. You stir it all together well in a big bowl until it is evenly mixed, and if you want it finer still, you can grind the whole mix for a moment so the soap shreds break down into the powder. And that is it. You pour your finished powder into a jar or a tub with a lid, and you keep it dry on the shelf, and it will last and last. You have just made laundry soap, the mountain way, for a tiny fraction of what that jug costs. Now stay with me, because how you use it matters, and this is where people go wrong. The whole secret of homemade soap is that you need far less of it than the store taught you to use. The companies want you to pour in a big capful every time, because the more you use, the faster you run out, and the sooner you buy more. But your homemade powder is concentrated and pure, and you only need a small amount, a couple of tablespoons for a normal load, a little more for a big dirty load of work clothes. You add it right in with the clothes as the water fills. And here is a key piece of old wisdom: warm or hot water helps the soap shreds dissolve fully, so if you are washing in cold water, it is worth dissolving your scoop of powder in a cup of hot water first, and then pouring that in, so you never get undissolved bits clinging to the clothes. The old folks washed mostly in warm water heated over the fire, so this was never a problem for them, but our cold water machines need that little extra step. Use it sparingly, dissolve it well, and this homemade soap will clean your everyday wash beautifully, your shirts and sheets and towels and the children's clothes, for pennies a load. But the old folks did not stop at just getting things clean. They knew how to get them truly bright and white. And stay with me, because this next trick is the one that replaces a whole shelf of products. For whitening, they did not use harsh bleach that eats the fabric and burns the lungs. They used 2 gentle things. The first is plain white vinegar, added to the rinse, about half a cup. Now do not worry. Your clothes will not smell of vinegar. That smell rinses clean away as they dry. And what the vinegar does is strip out the leftover soap residue and the dull mineral film that builds up and grays your whites, so your whites come out brighter and your colors truer. The second whitener is the oldest and best of all, and it costs absolutely nothing: the sun. The old folks hung their wash out on the line, and the sunlight itself bleaches and brightens whites naturally, gently, while it kills the germs and leaves that fresh, clean smell no bottle can match. A white sheet or shirt that is dried in the bright sun comes in whiter than it went out, for free, and it smells like the open air. For a stubborn, yellowed white, they would lay it out wet in the full sun for hours, and the sun would draw the yellow right out. No chemical bleach ever needed. Now here comes a micro-secret for softness. Because store-bought fabric softener is one of the biggest wastes of all. A jug of perfumed wax that coats your clothes and actually makes your towels less able to soak up water. The old folks made their towels soft and fluffy with one cheap thing, and you already heard it: vinegar. That same half cup of plain vinegar in the rinse not only brightens, it softens, because it rinses away the soap residue that makes fabric stiff and scratchy. With that residue gone, your towels come out soft and fluffy and thirsty again, your sheets come out smooth, and you never need a drop of that waxy softener. And if you miss a pleasant scent in your wash, the old way for that is simple too. A few drops of a sweet-smelling oil, lavender or whatever you love, onto a clean cloth tossed in with the load, or onto a ball of wool if you have it, and your wash comes out lightly and naturally scented, no synthetic perfume sitting against your skin. The old folks scented their linens with sprigs of lavender and herbs tucked among them, and there is no smell of clean quite like it. Let me give you the old ways with stains now, because a stain does not need a special spray. It needs the right cheap thing applied right away. The first rule the old folks lived by was to get to a stain while it is fresh, because a fresh stain lifts out and a set stain fights you. For a grease stain, they rubbed a little of the plain bar soap or a dab of dish soap right into it before washing, because grease needs soap to break it. For a blood or sweat or grass stain, cold water first, never hot, because hot water sets those stains, and then a paste of washing soda or a soak in cool water with borax. For a wine or fruit or coffee stain, salt drawn over it right away pulls it up, and a soak in vinegar water lifts the rest. For armpit, yellowing on shirts, a paste of baking soda or washing soda scrubbed in and left to sit, then washed and laid in the sun. For a really set-in stain on a sturdy white, a soak in hot water with washing soda and a squeeze of lemon, then out in the sun. The old folks kept these few simple cures in their heads, and between them they could lift almost any stain that came in from a hard day's work without a single bottle of stain remover. Now stay close, because I want to give you the liquid version of the soap too, since some folks prefer it, and the old way of making it is simple. Instead of keeping the soap as a dry powder, you melt your grated soap shreds into a pot of hot water until they fully dissolve, then you stir that into a bucket of more hot water along with your washing soda and borax, stirring until everything is dissolved and smooth. You let it cool, and as it cools it will thicken into a soft gel, sometimes lumpy, which is perfectly normal. You just stir it or shake it before each use. This liquid soap dissolves instantly even in cold water, which is its great advantage, and you use about a quarter to a half cup per load. A single batch in a bucket lasts a very long time. Some old folks kept the powder for storage because it never spoils on the shelf, and the liquid for daily use because it mixes in cold, and you can do the same, whichever suits you. Both clean the very same way, both cost almost nothing, and both will free you from that endless jug forever. Let me paint you the picture of how the old folks actually did the wash, because there is wisdom in the routine itself that still serves us. Wash day was its own day, often a Monday, and they did it with care and not in a hurry. They would heat a great pot of water over the fire, and the dirtiest things, the work clothes and the bedding, went into the hot soapy water first, where they were left to soak a good while, because soaking does half the work for you, loosening the dirt so it lets go without hard scrubbing. Here is the lesson in that for us. A soak before the wash, even half an hour in warm, soapy water, will get heavily soiled things far cleaner than tossing them straight in, and it is free. Then they agitated the clothes, working them up and down and around, sometimes on a washboard for the stubborn spots, the ridges of the board giving the scrubbing action that lifts ground in dirt from a collar or a knee. They wrung them out and rinsed them, often with that splash of vinegar in the final rinse, and then out to the line they went. Now most of us have a machine to do the agitating and wringing, and thank goodness, but the principles still hold. Soak the dirty things first, give the worst spots a rub by hand with the bar soap before they go in, and finish with the vinegar rinse. The old folks worked with the dirt patiently instead of trusting a stronger and stronger chemical to blast it out, and patient washing is gentler on the cloth too, so the clothes lasted for years and were handed down, which is a saving all its own. Let me give you a handful of quick old tricks now, the little ones that round out the wash. A scoop of washing soda added to any load boosts the cleaning power on a really dirty load, even if you are using up the last of your store detergent. Half a cup of baking soda in the wash naturally deodorizes clothes that have picked up a smell like smoke or sweat or that musty smell from sitting damp. To strip the buildup out of towels that have gone stiff and stopped soaking up water, the old folks would wash them once in hot water with washing soda and no soap, then again with vinegar in the rinse, and the towels come back to life, soft and thirsty. Sheets and whites washed and then dried in the bright sun come out germ-free and smelling of the open air. And a bar of that plain soap kept by the wash basin lets you scrub a collar or a cuff or a spot by hand before it ever goes in the machine. A handful of washing soda dropped into the machine itself now and then, run empty on hot, cleans the machine and clears the buildup and the smell that collects inside it, so the very thing washing your clothes stays clean too. For musty clothes that have sat too long in the basket or a damp closet, a soak in water with a cup of vinegar before washing kills the smell at the root rather than covering it. And to keep moths out of the woolens and linens you store away for the season, the old folks tucked in sprigs of dried lavender and cedar shavings, which keep the bugs off and leave a sweet scent, instead of those harsh-smelling mothballs. Little things, all of them cheap, all of them passed down, all of them saving you from another product on the shelf. Now I owe you an honest word, because we always tell the truth on this channel, and there are a couple of things to know. First, borax and washing soda are good cleaners, but they are not for eating, and they can dry or irritate skin if you handle a lot of the raw powder, so you wash your hands after mixing a batch. You keep the powders up away from children and pets, just as you would any cleaner, and you make sure your scoop dissolves fully in the wash so none sits on the clothes. They rinse clean and are gentle in the wash, but the raw powder deserves respect, the same as the old folks gave it. Second, this homemade soap is wonderful for everyday clothes and linens, but some modern washing machines and some delicate or special care fabrics have their own rules, so use a little sense. Go gentle on anything delicate, and there is no harm in testing a batch on a load of everyday things first to see how it suits your water and your machine. The old folks adjusted their recipe to their own hard or soft water over the years, a little more washing soda here, a little less there, and you will find your own best mix the same way. That is part of the craft of it, and it is a good and satisfying thing to learn. Let me take you back even further now, because the truest old mountain families did not even buy that bar of soap. They made it, and I want you to know how, because there is real magic in it. Soap is one of the oldest things people learned to make, and it comes from just two things, fat and lye. The fat came from their own animals, the trimmings and the drippings saved from cooking all year, nothing wasted, melted and cleaned. The lye came from wood ashes, and this is the part most people never knew. The old folks poured water slowly through a barrel packed with the hardwood ashes from their fires, and the water that trickled out the bottom was lye water, strong and sharp. They boiled that fat and that lye water together, slowly, stirring for hours, and as it cooked it thickened and turned, and what they poured out and let harden was soap, made entirely from the fat of their animals and the ashes of their fire, two things that cost nothing and would otherwise be thrown away. Now, I will be honest with you. Making lye soap from ashes is real work, and the lye is caustic and must be handled with great care and respect, so it is not something to rush into without learning it properly. But I tell you this so you understand the depth of what these people knew. They could make soap itself out of waste, out of ashes and drippings, with no store involved at all, the cleaning power conjured from a fire and a few scraps. That is self-reliance of a kind we can barely imagine now, and even if you never make lye soap yourself, just knowing it can be done, that the whole thing starts from fat and ashes, changes how you see that jug on the shelf forever. Now let me have you do a little sum in your head, because the money is the part that truly wakes people up. Think about what a family spends on laundry over the years. A jug of detergent every month or two, plus the softener, plus the stain spray, plus the bleach, plus the scent boosters they sell now. Add it all up and a household easily spends $100–200 a year on washing clothes, often much more. Now look at the homemade recipe. A bar of plain soap, a box of washing soda, a box of borax, the whole lot for a small handful of dollars, and from it you get the better part of a year of washing. You are not saving a few coins here. You are cutting the cost of clean clothes down to almost nothing, and over a lifetime of washing, that is thousands upon thousands of dollars that stay in your pocket instead of going down the drain with the rinse water. The old mountain folk never had those hundreds of dollars to spend in the first place, which is exactly why they figured out how to do it for pennies. But here is the thing, with prices climbing the way they are now, most of us do not really have that money to throw away either. This is not a quaint old habit. This is real money, kept every single month for the rest of your life. And all it asks is that you grate a bar of soap and mix in 2 cheap powders a few times a year. And let me give you one more old path for those who want to go even simpler and more natural, because the mountain folk and the old families across the world knew of plants that wash all on their own. There is a plant whose berries, often called soap nuts or soap berries, contain a natural soap right in the shell. And when you toss a few of them in a little cloth bag into the wash, the warm water draws that natural soap out and it cleans the clothes gently. Then you dry the same berries and use them again several times before they are spent. The old folks in many mountain regions knew their local soap plants too, certain roots and leaves and barks that lathered in water and were used for washing both clothes and hair. Soapwort being one the old grandmothers grew on purpose for just that. I tell you this not because you must go gather plants, but to show you how many ways there have always been to get clean without a factory and a jug. How the whole living world is full of cleaning power for anyone who knows where to look. The store would have you believe that clean comes only from their bottle. The old folks knew it grows on bushes and bubbles up from ashes and mixes from 3 cheap powders, and that the bottle was never necessary at all. And now, here it is, the heart of the whole matter, the thing I most want you to take from this, the truth that the old mountain folk understood and that we have forgotten. It is not really about the soap, it is about what the soap stands for. When you make your own washing soap from 3 cheap things and it lasts you the better part of a year, you have done more than save money, though you have saved a great deal of money. Hundreds of dollars over the years, thousands over a lifetime. You have taken back a small piece of your independence. You no longer need the store for this. You no longer hand your money to a company for a jug of perfumed water. You know how to do it yourself, with your own hands, from simple things, the way your grandmother did and her grandmother before her, and that knowing is a kind of freedom that cannot be taken from you. The mountain families were rich in that freedom, not because they had money, they had almost none, but because they needed so little, because they could make what they needed from what was at hand. And every time you make a batch of this soap, you join that long line of capable, self-reliant people who never waited on a store to live well. That is the real recipe. The soap is just where it starts. And once you have made one thing yourself and seen how simple it truly was all along, you will start to wonder what else you have been buying that you could just as easily make, and that wondering is the beginning of a whole different way of living, the old way, the better way. So that is the forgotten mountain recipe for washing your clothes and all the old tricks that go with it. The simple soap of grated bar soap, washing soda, and borax, mixed dry to last all year or melted into a gel for cold water. Using just a little, dissolved well. Brightening with vinegar and the free bleach of the sun. Softening with vinegar instead of waxy store softener. Scenting with a drop of natural oil or a sprig of lavender. Lifting stains with salt and soda and cool water and quick hands. 3 cheap things and a handful of old know-how, and you never need that heavy jug of perfumed water again. The old mountain families did all of this because they had to cut off from the store with every penny counted, and in their need they kept alive a skill that frees anyone who learns it. We have a whole aisle of jugs now, and we have forgotten that clean was always this simple and this cheap, but you do not have to forget. You can make 1 batch this week, and feel that quiet pride of clothes washed clean by your own hand, the old way, the honest way. So here is what I want you to do. This week, pick up a plain bar of soap, a box of washing soda, and a box of borax, and make 1 small batch of this soap, and wash a load with it, and see for yourself how clean it comes out and how little it cost. Then hang that wash in the sun if you can, and smell the difference. And come tell me in the comments, did your family make their own soap too? Did your mother or grandmother keep a tub of homemade washing powder and hang the wash on the line? And where in the world are you watching from tonight? Because I truly love seeing how far this old wisdom reaches. If this video saved you money or stirred an old memory, subscribe and stay with me so together we can keep these old mountain recipes alive, the ones that saved a fortune and made us capable and free, before they slip away for good. They knew how to make do and do well, those old folks, and they have so much left to teach us. Grab that bar of soap, mix your first batch, and take this small piece of the old way back into your own home. I will see you in the next one.